Hi, everyone. Welcome, and thanks for joining us for Stars of Franchising.
Get ready for a roller coaster ride through the world of franchising as we bring you the best stories of inspiration and entrepreneurial grit and turning dreams into franchise realities.
That's right, Vinny. From emerging to global brands, we'll chat with the genius minds behind the magic. All brought to you by the Tariq Farid Franchise Institute at Babson College. I'm Ab.
And I'm Vini. Now, buckle up for some serious inspiration.
We are so excited to have Amanda and Ab Bialek with us today. An amazing marketing, branding, professional thought leader and innovator with some tremendous experience to share. So, AB, welcome to Babson.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and excited to be able to have a fun and hopefully informative discussion today.
For sure, for sure. One of the things, AB, we love to start with, in our conversations here, which, with roads leading back to entrepreneurship, is a question we ask our students, which is, if you could talk a little bit about your why, what caused you to do what you do, and maybe a little background on where your pathway to what you're doing today, that'd be great for us to hear.
Yeah, well, I think like most entrepreneurial or maybe innovative people is I had a lot of pathways and a lot of stops and starts, including taking a pause on college altogether and just worked and traveled. But when I truly found my passion in communications and marketing, I finished up school in about 18 months. I took as many courses as I could, did as many internships as I could, and I never looked back. And timing is so much, part of my own kind of career path and success I've achieved. So, having those stops and starts, while I might have been a little bit of an older graduate, it was definitely, kind of what I was intended to do. And some of the opportunities I had earlier on in my career, being able to have a leading role at some marketing agencies as they were on their ground floor.
Mm-hmm.
Really opened up me being able to wear a lot of hats, not only in the marketing lens, but also on the business side as I've helped to, own and run a few different agencies.
That's great. And, before I turn it over to Vinny, one of the things as an entrepreneur, right, that you are now and being around, consumer brands and franchise brands, what have you learned or what could you share as a common myth about franchising from your perspective where you sit and have sat?
Yeah, I think franchising, I think most people know when they first hear the term franchising, they might not be familiar with it. But if you say, well, think of like McDonald's or Taco Bell, the light bulbs go off.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I think franchising is really known as, it's just for restaurants, or maybe it's just for retail locations. And individuals might not realize that franchising can be pool care, senior care.
Mm-hmm.
It can be self-care. It could be, literally any service where you've found a way to make money
Mm-hmm.
and find some success, and be able to replicate it in markets, across the country and across the globe. So I think that's a big myth I feel, is that people only sometimes will look at franchising as being really, limited to one or two categories.
Abby, if I might just maybe dive a little bit in the marketing world for now. When you approach franchisees or franchisors, I guess, let me put it this way. Is it fair to assume that most of your work is with the franchisors and not with the franchisees, since the franchisees have to work within the frameworks of what is set up by the franchisors, so given in terms of branding and marketing? So.
Yeah, you know what? It's both. So we do national brand building for the brand overall. So then you're working very closely with the franchisor.
Okay.
But we're drilling down and working with individual franchisees in the markets in which they operate. So I think it's really important for franchisees to understand that mix of how national brand building for the network overall obviously can help, lift the tide of all the boats. But in order for you to be successful in the market in which you operate, there are a lot of different local marketing tactics that can be employed that might not necessarily work at the national level. So it's really a blend of both. You obviously want to follow the brand standards and brand guides that are set forth by the franchisor, but you have to make it your own in your own market, because what works in, my hometown of Huntington Beach, California, might not work in downtown Los Angeles where my office is. Totally different demographic mix and group that you need to have some nuanced marketing tactics to be able to reach.
Interesting. And AB, have you found situations where you have tensions between the national and then the local? And then how is it? What have you learned from those tensions, and how have you been able to successfully navigate to the satisfaction of of all parties? I would say both parties, because usually many parties involved here. Can you speak to that, please?
Yes. So I would say that tension tends to come up a lot with digital, so social media. Everyone wants to have their own channel, their own Instagram page, their own Facebook page. It's really hard to build a cohesive brand strategy when you have a lot of disparate Instagram profiles. You don't want to bifurcate your audience. So that has been a challenge if it's not very clearly defined in the franchisor guidelines in terms of franchisees' ability to have different profiles. So if a franchisee already starts their Instagram page and gets a pretty good following, it's really hard to ask them to turn it off in favor of the brand's channel. And that's typically for Instagram. Now, Facebook, we have no problem having franchisees have their own pages. It's a really great communication tool for talking about things that are special and unique to that location, whether it's a special they're offering, or if they have a change in hours, or to highlight, their local customers. And so we tend to allow them to have a little bit more flexibility there, autonomy. Also, it helps back in us track some of their, really great analytics, which can help us, market the brand overall. But that's usually where we get the most tension, is a franchisee wants to have their own social profile. They have their own artistic and creative vision, and it might not be aligned with the brand standards and guidelines for how the brand's trying to position themselves overall.
Interesting.
Now, AB, I know you've worked with some very, very large and established brands, as well as growth brands, emerging brands. So from for franchisors, can you just talk a little bit about maybe some of the challenges or the things that early brands fail to do or stumble maybe in establishing their brand identity and maintaining it, or being, proactive with it, and how you guys help them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the keys to being a really great franchisee and franchisor is communication. And when that breaks down, I think that's where a lot of the problems, start to percolate. So you cannot be too clear in terms of guidelines for something as seemingly minimal as social media to how you caption yourself in a bio on social, what kind of target groups you want to reach out to. So the more clear and more specific you can be in terms of what your vision is, what your true value prop is, and how we're unique in the consumer marketplace, and what your expectations are for how the brand grows, builds, what your operation standards are, what your marketing standards are. All of that needs to be clearly laid out. And that's in any business. More shades of gray you have, where you're not asking those probing questions. Well, what do we think about once we reach, a system unit of 100, and suddenly we have 100 different Instagram profiles? What do we do then? Or what if we do want to change our logo, and, we now have to ask 100 different franchisees? That's impossible. Maybe we need to have a smaller subset that, is really our advisory council. So you need to not only, you need to think of, your end-to-end business, not only in stage one in your first year, but in 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years. So you can already lay that foundation and build that stable track for stability and scaling. If you don't have those conversations, it's really hard to go back in time, because think if you're opening up to a forum of, your first 100 franchisees, and they're used to always having a say about, key business decisions for the franchise network overall. And suddenly you limit that to maybe a 5-person advisory council, you're going to have some angry franchisees on your hands. So you really need to think about all parts of the business, not just only in year 1, but think about how you want to be operating at year 20. And that's how that's what you need to put in your franchise guides and playbooks.
AB, you've done a lot of work for providing marketing services to franchisees and franchisors. What would you consider maybe your biggest failure? And what did you learn? What was your major takeaway from that?
Oh, gosh. Well, I think the biggest failure in franchising and just in any business, but franchising in particular, is not tapping your network and trying to go it alone. I think, if you go to industry conferences in the franchising space, it can seem very closed door, very insular. But really, the way you can grow your franchise the best, whether you're in operations or in marketing or whatever it is really tapping your network and asking. It can seem competitive, but in any business, the more you realize that you don't know everything and you do have to tap seasoned experts, that is going to be your shortcut for growth and success and scaling. If you try and take the hard lumps and figure out, what goes in your FDD or how much do you disclose or not, and you kind of step into a landmine, that could have been avoided if you asked a more tenured franchisor, or even if you're a franchisee reviewing a potential investment. If you're not, asking their current network of operators some of those tough questions before you make your informed investment decision, you could really, get into a world of trouble. So I would say, me personally, me trying to go it alone, being a Capricorn, I like to kind of own all things. But that's a really hard way to learn. It's a really expensive and long way to learn. So tap your network and look across categories for best practices, and then find a way to make it your own from there. But don't go it alone.
Okay, so actually you answered one of the questions we were going to ask you in the process of responding to that question. So if we take it from your perspective as a provider of marketing services, was there a point where the marketing just didn't work? Okay. You did it, and then it didn't. Maybe it worked at the national level, it didn't work at the local level, or vice versa. Which of them stood out the most to you that say, wow, we missed it there? And what was the key learning point?
I think anytime an initiative falls flat, and especially when you're dealing with maybe food brands and you're trying to promote a limited time offer, and you want to get buzz, and those news cycles are so short, it's always really disappointing when you think you have a great idea, you sell it in, the whole franchise network gets excited, and the news cycle either just doesn't respond or maybe it moves on too quickly. And it's hard. You don't want to waste people's time or money, and people get really excited. So I think times when we've had those news cycle moments where you think, okay, this is going to be it. I think we saw a lot of that around. We used to do big promotions around April Fool's Day, and just as that news cycle has kind of shifted away from brands really doing anything major, it's just kind of gotten to be a really kind of tired news angle. So for a while it worked and it was great. And we did, really fun and dynamic campaigns with brands like Fat Burger, changing their name to Skinny Burger for the day. But I would say, a few years ago, that just stopped being such a media draw. So we stopped advising our franchise clients to lean in heavily as a marketing tactic.
Thank you.
That you're touching, AB, on so many great learning points, from communication to, I love the comment about planning for scale, 10, 20, for the future. What great advice for all companies, but franchisors and franchisees. But I want to touch back too on, the network, and franchising, if you take advantage of it, you mentioned, lends itself to that sharing and franchisees and really learning best practices. Can you talk a little bit about some of the innovation you guys either saw or drove with some brands either during or coming out of the pandemic that was impactful and how franchising allowed that to get pushed out in the system?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing any brand saw during the pandemic is you had to adapt. You had to adapt, you had to be nimble, or you were going to go out of business. So I think it was to me, the biggest takeaway for the pandemic is how much innovation happened.
Yeah.
How much you had to adapt your business and do it in a really creative way. So, brands that, didn't have off-premise or carry out suddenly had to figure out really quickly how to enable their kitchen, their teams, their staff to handle carry out orders or, off-premise dining if someone wanted to, have a family gathering outside. You saw restaurants that maybe didn't have outdoor dining, work with their cities, their respective cities, and expand their footprint to include, ways to dine outdoor and all that means from a service perspective, cleanliness, the whole full scale. And I'm speaking more specifically to restaurants here. For those that weren't in the food category, how do you continue to operate your business when you deal with pets or senior care? How do you continue to, tap into your network and maybe use digital channels to do that in order to, continue to stay top of mind? So I think that to me was the biggest, bright spot through the pandemic was how businesses adapted and then, found that, hey, this was actually a really great additional source of revenue. And let's keep it and have it part of our full-time operating system.
Well, AB, let's talk social, diversity, equity, and inclusion, okay, and then sustainability. And I know as a marketing professional, it's an area where you navigate a lot, okay? How brands express themselves in the public, how they appeal to their audience. So have you seen any trend in DEI sustainability that is impacting the way you create value for franchisees and franchisors?
Yeah, I think the franchise industry has been really great in terms of leading a lot of efforts with DEI and social impact. Make no mistake, there are really great franchises out there that have, maybe lower price points to be part of their franchise system, but a barrier to entry for, really mass, investment in franchising is, it can be different to find financing or maybe lack of education on how to run a franchise business. So there are a lot of really amazing brands. McDonald's, they committed $250 million in the U.S. over 5 years to, provide alternatives to traditional financing in order to help candidates who might face, different economic barriers or just have a limited, exposure to the world of franchising, get into this world. Wendy's has a similar initiative. Ben & Jerry's waives the franchise fees for diverse franchisees, and they provide rebates on royalties. But beyond that, because the first step is, getting more diverse franchisors and franchisees into this world. But, once they're there, I know that the IFA, which is kind of the largest franchising, governing organization board, they have a ton of committees. They have DEI councils, support groups, affinity groups. They have, forums for minority owners to engage with other company leadership. And just, they have a ton of industry affiliations to help support minority owners. So you need first to provide access and get people in the door. Then you need to support them once they're there. And then, every part of an organization needs to also reflect the world that we live in today, which is incredibly diverse and all that that brings to a table.
AB, you're so right. And I think sometimes, people miss that either when they're evaluating brands, that certain brands are doing great things. And you're right. I sat on a panel or a meeting with the International Franchise Association, IFA, as you reference, on diversity leadership. And so we encourage all listeners who are evaluating brands or franchisees to pursue those networks as well, because there's some things that are going more to do, of course. But wow, you really bring, a lot of, it's great you represent, AB, the strategic manner in which marketing and professionals at service really it goes beyond just the campaign, and I think a lot of companies and brands could do wonders. I wish some of the ones that I worked with had your support back in the day, the brands, because as investors and lenders and boards, sometimes it's hard to really navigate the marketing side, but you really bring a strategic perspective. So with that, I'd love to ask you, going forward and looking into the future, you've seen a lot of change, innovation during the pandemic, like like you mentioned. Any future trends or things you're seeing on the horizon that can change and impact franchising going forward, whether it's technology or some other things that we should keep our eye out for?
I always say slow and steady wins the race. Yeah. And I think the future of franchising, especially for those who are looking to get into this world, is, and it's a position that we use to govern a lot of our new business decisions, is look for those recession-proof businesses. Franchising, the world of franchising is so attractive for so many people because it's relatively stable. There's not a lot of volatility. This isn't, an early stage new, kind of food that's, heavily VC backed and is super sexy, but, also might not be on store shelves in a year from now. So franchising tends to be very stable. Think of all of, the individuals who might be having life changes or might have been laid off and have decided, I no longer, want to work for someone else. I want to own my own business. Franchising provides a really wonderful opportunity to, tap into that entrepreneurial spirit with, the guidance of a great playbook. So I would say, to me, the future of franchising is really looking at those essential businesses. People are always going to spend on their pets. They're always going to spend on their, aging loved ones and their kids. You're going to always spend money on fixing your house. If you have water in your house, you want that water out as quickly as possible. So you're going to call, water and mold remediation experts. Think about maintenance. Your car, if your car breaks down, you need it to get to work, you're going to go to, a Christian Brothers Automotive or, a Meineke. So think of those essential businesses that, you might not get your nails done that week, but you sure as heck are going to go, get your brakes tuned up if you need it to get to work. So those are proven business models. And, when you have a proven business model, you don't have to really worry about a lot of market volatility, and you have some pretty good brand recognition, then you can focus on innovation and doing really, really cool, fun things when you already have, your stable business established.
Thank you, Ab. Ab, if you have maybe in front of you a group of franchisees or even a group of franchisors, and you want to advise them the best way to manage relationship with agencies like yours, marketing agencies. So, what advice would you give them? What do the best franchisees or the best franchisors do when they work with marketing agencies like yours?
And this is in any category, but in franchising especially, you have to recognize that, and we always say this, excuse my language, but we don't make this shit up. So you have to have a vested interest in the marketing plan. We don't create stories from thin air. We definitely are nimble and adapt to the news cycle and consumer trends and consumer spending behaviors. But, all of those ideas are rooted in what are the core brand missions, what, are those core consumer groups we need to reach, and what budgets exist to actually do that. I think the best partnerships have that two-way dialogue. The ones that say, well, just market me today, give me the New York Times or just get, me to go viral. Make it happen. That never works. Really bad expectations. And I would hope they don't govern their business that way. Well, you need franchise network, just make money. Pay me the royalty fees. Well, you need to have a hand in that. You need to have some guidance. You need to have some say. And we always like to challenge our clients to say, here's what we feel is the best and most strategic way to market your brand. And let's, start from there and collaborate and really build this plan together.
Wow. That's what makes you, AB, and Konnect agency one of the best, honestly, that strategic thinking. And I think we've heard it and I've seen it, AB, that, a lot of companies, franchisors, franchisees, and brands underestimate, the power of the things you're talking about, answering the question about who's your customer and what your brand stands for. So, wow, incredible learnings. We're so grateful to have you. And we're so impressed with the progress of you and your firm. And I think it's true, and it's great to have you represented here today as an entrepreneur. And I think that gives you a unique perspective to help your customers and clients. So thank you so much, AB. And if there's anything we can do here at Babson to help you on your journey, and we still want to collaborate and watch all the great things that happen.
Well, thank you. It's been great. There's so much you can talk about, and And I know we had a bit of a short window of time, but always happy to continue the conversation and hit new topics. And if anyone has questions, that I can answer, I'd be more than happy to. So,
but Ab, now since you're a marketing professional, I can't resist but ask you, because I know some students are going to ask me, Vini, marketing, in general, but what is special about marketing in the franchise world? What is are there something differences when it comes to working in the franchising space when you talk about marketing? If so, what are the unique characteristics of marketing? Or let me put it this way: what are the unique characteristics of marketing in the franchising world?
Yeah, I think you always have to realize that you're working really for two clients, if you will. You have the franchisor, right, and then you have franchisees that you need to make happy as well in their local market. I think that can sometimes pose a bit of a challenge, but again, as long as you're really transparent, you have clear communication in terms of what are the goals and expectations for whatever that quarter's marketing driver is. But I think in terms of what's so exciting about franchising and marketing in that world is look at the not only global impact you can have for doing really amazing things. You have the power of an entire network to really move the change needle in the direction, kind of that benefits all of society. But you get to do really fun things. Think of McDonald's and all of the menu innovations that they're doing with celebrities and having a limited edition menu with Cardi B and Offset that, premiered at the Super Bowl and then launched right before Valentine's Day, and how literally McDonald's cups became something coveted that people were selling on eBay. Like that's innovation and coast to coast and globally. So when you get a really awesome idea, you really have an opportunity to have, coast to coast, marketing lift, and it gets the name out there. And it's awesome to have friends and family say, oh my gosh, I just saw, fill in the blank franchise, do or franchise concept do, this thing. Did you have a handle in that? And it's fun to say yes.
Hey, Ab, this is wonderful. This is great. My first time, I must confess that I'm meeting a marketing professional in the franchising space. So I feel privileged. I feel lucky. We're very grateful.
Well, likewise, it's been so great. And from one marketing professional to another, I think we could talk for hours.
Super.
Well, more to come because we will take you up on it, and wish you a great rest of the day, AB, and we'll talk soon. And love to have you here at Babson and have a visit and meet some students and take it from there.
Yes, we'll go back to the old innovation of in-person.
Yes. For sure.
We'll love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, AB.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Stars of Franchising.
Stars of Franchising was produced at Babson College, engineered by Travis Gray. Karen Soa is our guest coordinator, and music by Ralph Taylor.
If you like Stars of Franchising, be sure to review us wherever you get your podcasts, and spread the word and share these stories any way you can.